Welcome to the Sporty Sibling podcast, where we score touchdowns
and make baskets. Today, we're going to match off and talk about
the NBA power rankings. I mean, wow, it's been a pretty good season. I mean, who would have thought the Jazz have a 27-8 record? Who would have seen some of the different things? I'm just like, what is going on here? I mean, it's been a pretty good time. Pretty good time. So let us get started, Eunice. Go ahead, and where do you want to begin?
Okay, well, see, unlike our last podcast where we did the top 20 for NHL, obviously the NBA does not work that way. I have honestly never seen it where you combine both conferences, and that's just because the West is the West Conference and the East is the East Conference. My brother disagrees, but that's how I like to put it. So we're just gonna go by conferences, and we're gonna start off with the Eastern Conference because we gotta save the best for last.
Okay, so who do you have as your number one?
I have the Brooklyn Nets. For me, I feel like maybe for more people, they may have it tied for some other teams. But I went ahead and went with the Brooklyn Nets, and judging by your face, Versa, I am assuming you have picked a different team, so go ahead and tell me who your team is.
The 76ers! How could you put... Okay, look, I'm not saying the Nets are a bad team. I'm not saying that. So before everybody starts, biting my head off, understand, I'm not saying they're a bad team. What I am saying, though, is they are not number one. I mean, they almost lost to the Spurs the other night. Come on. Come on. But tell me, why do you have the Nets as your number one?
Okay, well, first off, when you just look at record alone, the 76ers are only leading by one less loss. Okay? But when you compare the smaller records, which is home and away, I honestly think that the Nets have it better because while 76ers, they have a better home streak. They're 15-3, phenomenal, killing it at home. But their road streak is kind of worrying for the number one. Now, obviously, I guess you can say it's okay because right now they're number one. If they stay the number one for the rest of the season, they'll probably play at home. They have the advantage. But just say things change because honestly, we can't really call it right now. Things have changed completely, and we've seen it before in the past. The Brooklyn Nets, they're honestly quite even in terms of their records. I think they have good records on both ends. They're 13-6 for home, obviously not as good as the 76ers, but they're still a winning record, and they're 10-7 on the road, which is also a winning record. They are in the same boat as Philadelphia right now. They're in the top two. They'll probably play at home. But you don't know sometimes. Sometimes things change. You may end up playing on the road for one reason or another. Maybe a dark horse comes in. We saw it in last year's tournament where the Miami Heat just came and knocked off the Celtics. Like, who would have thought, you know? I know it didn't have to do with the home and away game, but it still happened, and you have to kind of sometimes think about that. And also, I just feel like the Brooklyn Nets have been almost head-to-head with the 76ers in a lot of different numbers. Winning percentage, like I said, 76ers are only ahead by only 0.018%. So it's not like that. It's not like it's that big of a lead. They've been killing in the conference and division. They in their last 10 games, they have won 9-1 in their last 10 games. They're on a winning streak right now. And I think they're good. I think that may be some moment. Honestly, I feel like they're going to pass up the 76ers because the 76ers are only leading by one game or one less loss.
They're only they're only half a game behind right now.
Yeah, so they're doing amazing, and I think that they are my number one. It was tied between 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets, but I just felt like the Brooklyn Nets are only just leading by just a little bit, and I feel like once the 76ers, just slip up just a little bit, they're gonna take them over.
So let me ask you this before I go into mine. Is your number two the 76ers?
Yes.
Okay, so you obviously explained why one is number one and one is number two, which is perfect. Okay, let me explain to you why you were wrong. Okay, alrighty. Let's start off the conference. Okay, within the conference, so within the Eastern Conference, the 76ers are 18-6. Okay, while the Brooklyn Nets are 11-9. Alrighty, way better in conference record. Fine. Okay. Home record, they're 15-3. Sure. The Nets are 13-6. And away, they're 8-9, while the Brooklyn are 10-7. Okay? Now, nothing against the power three that they have in Brooklyn with KD, Kyrie Irving, and the beer. Okay? Now, with all that being said, let's not forget, they're supposed to be three, not only MVP caliber players, but they're supposed to be the best of the best, okay? Now, look at what happened against the Spurs. They had the lead the whole game, and then they allowed the Spurs to come back. Nothing against my Spurs, you know. We rep the Spurs 3 ways from Sunday, okay? We were there when we got our heart broken against Miami in the championship game.
And we were there when they came back and whooped their ass.
Correct. But even with that, Brooklyn allowed a much weaker team, which we can all agree that the Spurs are a much weaker team than Brooklyn, to come back in an unmanageable fashion and bring it back and take it to overtime. Now, mind you, yes, Brooklyn still beat the Spurs away and everything as such, but it's the fact that they allowed them to come back instead of sticking to the win. That is the main reason why I put them as number 2. On top of that, when the 76ers played against the number 1 team in the West, which is the Jazz, which is currently the overall number 1 in everybody's mind, the only reason they lost is because they were missing Joel Embiid, okay? Which when he came back against the Bulls, he went up and threw 50 points. He went and went Kobe all over the Bulls. And on top of that, Ben Simon dropped a career high of his own with 42 points. And that was against the Jazz, which are the number 1 overall team, the best team of all time right now. Well, of this year. Let me be serious. Let me change that out.
Yeah.
So,
correct your
mind you that. Now, he did return from the illness that Sunday and went and scored 28 and 9 for 11 when they did lost to Toronto. Now, my difference between Brooklyn and Philadelphia are very small. Okay? Very, very small. I firmly believe they need to do better. Brooklyn can overtake them if they don't get their stuff together. In that, if they get their stuff together, there is no way Brooklyn is gonna be able to catch them. But it is going to be hard for the 76ers not to sit here and say that Brooklyn is not right behind them, considering that they are half a game behind. If Joel Embiid had played against the Jazz, they would be a full game ahead of Brooklyn. Now,
another reason, and I'm just going to say this, you know me, Hersa. I am purely a statistics girl. Not only do I like it, but I also like seeing the players and how they are ranking amongst all the other players in the NBA, or in the league, better said, considering I do this for all sports. You look at this. You look at the stats for points per game. If you're just comparing Philadelphia and Brooklyn, Philadelphia has the better player in Joel and Embiid. He is ranked number 2 in the league with 29.8 points per game. Brooklyn has no one in the top 5. Okay, Philadelphia has it there. Rebounds per game, neither of them is in the top 5. Nor then you get to assists per game. James Harden, he is number 1 right now in the league with 11 point. About an average 11 point assists per game. So amazing. Philadelphia, nowhere to be found in the top 5. Blocks per game, neither team is in it. Steals per game, neither one. Field goal percentage, neither one. Then you get to 3-pointers made, and Joe Harris is number 4 currently in the league with 122 3-pointers made. Philadelphia has no one to be seen in that category. You got 3-point percentage. Joe Harris as well has made 50% of his 3-pointers. And honestly, you have to admit, that's pretty good considering 3-pointers are so hard to make in the game of basketball. At least for me, and given how small I am, it's hard for me. I don't know about them, but it's hard for me. Well,
but also look at if we want to go with stats, fine. Let me give you the stats. Brooklyn is 8-8 against teams below 500. Okay, at least one team below 500 is gonna make it to the NBA Finals, and if they're number 2, they're going to play them. Do you really trust that they're gonna win a best of 7 against when they're 8-8 against above 500?
Well, yeah, I do believe so, because obviously right now we're already seeing that they're currently on a win streak. They've won 9 out of the 10 last games that they've played. But we also see that, you know, they not only have a winning record at home, but we've seen in the past that the Nets, you know, yes, sometimes they don't have the best record when it comes to other teams, whether they're the underdog or whether they're the favorite. But you have to remember that it doesn't always end up that way. I feel like Brooklyn is one of those teams that I've seen where they sometimes can actually do way better in the postseason compared to how they're doing in the season. You know, obviously that has not been the way it has every single season, but you know, from what I've seen of the Brooklyn Nets, they are so far a team that more than likely usually does better in the postseason compared to how they do during the season. So yes, right now they're 8-8. Obviously, it's not the full season yet, so by the end of the season, it could possibly change already to being like 13-8 or 14-8. We don't know yet. Same thing goes for the 76ers.
Correct.
Better or worse. You know, NBA is such a tossing game, such a tossing sport. You know, you never know. One person can go from number 6 to number 1 in just 2 weeks because they just go on a winning streak, and others can go on losing streaks. It's one of the most unpredictable sports in my opinion, and so I feel like, yeah, I can put a bet that the Brooklyn Nets can win in the postseason against a team that is, you know, below 500, because we don't know with this, and obviously it could backfire on me. They could end up losing against, but that's just the bet you have to take in NBA, and I feel like I am pretty safe with putting it on them.
I understand your thing. I wouldn't put my money on it. I don't trust it. That's me though. Of course, that's me. But with all that being said, who's your number 3 and your number 4 team?
Okay, so my number 3 and my number 4 were kind of iffy. I wasn't really sure who to put. For number 3, I just stuck with the safe bet of Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like that, you know, they're just a pretty safe bet. They're also just barely trailing behind the Nets and the 76ers, and they do have a good comfortable lead against everyone else who's ranked below them. So I just felt like they're a good number 3. Now my number 4, however, that's where I struggled a bit, because I had 4 teams, in my personal opinion, that was stuck for number 4. That's the New York Knicks, the Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics, and the Toronto Raptors. Now, I know you may be thinking I'm crazy because you're probably thinking of one or more of the teams and thinking like, what's going on in your head, Eunice? But you have to understand the different statistics for each team actually has an advantage of their own, whether it be one of the streaks that they have currently going on, either home or away, or something they're going on with a certain player or players. But in the end, I just went ahead and went with the New York Knicks as my number 4.
That was the only right thing you did all so far, because let's be real here. The New York Knicks is literally the same thing. You have to understand, Hersa. Miami Heat, Boston Celtics, Toronto Raptors, they literally all have the same record. And the New York Knicks are only ahead by 1 win. Let's be real here. Yeah, because look at what the Knicks are doing. Julius Randle scored 44 points and took a career-high 7 3-pointers in the win over the Hawks. And then he's still having a breakout season.
Yes,
and then they have R.J. Barrett, also had a strong
look at the Miami Heat, though. The Miami Heat were not only the dark horse last season that completely changed the game entirely, went on to just being the runner-up against the Lakers, but right now they're on a six-win streak, right? Honestly, yes, I did say all 4 teams were tied, but in reality, now that I think about it, it was actually just between the Heat and the Knicks, because the Heat, I just still have that thought about what happened last year, and I'm like, can I really bet against them right now? What if they surprise me like they did last year?
Yeah, but they had Goran Dragic missed all 4 games. Last week. I'm sorry. And then Credit Nunn filled in. Credit Nunn filled in, and although he had 17 points, per the games, that's not enough to make them back. They were averaging 20 points from the bench last year, and they got to the finals. I mean, we've seen what a good bench can do. And again, I'll bring it back to the Spurs. I'll bring it back to the Lakers. They all had great benches, and they all won championships. I mean, yes, they have Ben Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, of course, who are great leaders. Nothing against them, but they need to string together those wins. They need to get back into what they were last year. And I do not see them doing that this year. There is no way on earth that I can arguably say that they're going to be in the finals this year. I believe they're going to lose out at the end.
Well, I mean, you can place that bet, but obviously we saw last year that no one really, you even said it in our podcast that we did where we determined the tournament. And I will admit, I even did myself, where we decided who would win and move on into each part of the tournament. We both had the Miami Heat losing either in the first round or second round. They ended up surprising everyone and going to the finals, playing the Lakers.
Because they were facing much better teams, and they got their stuff together at the last minute, which is what he needed to win.
Right now, they are, like I said, they are them along with the Celtics and Raptors are only leading behind the Knicks by one win less. Okay, Knicks are only leading by 1 win against all 3 of those teams. But the Heat right now not only have a win streak going on right now, but you have to remember is that they are a team that seems to like to adapt at the last second. It's not the most efficient way. You'd rather just be good the entire season. That way you can, be one of the top 2 and play at home, have an advantage and all that. But you know what? Sadly, they are not that team. I wish they'd work on that. But they have proven last year and even in some of the years past, even when they had players like LeBron James, where, maybe they weren't doing so well in the beginning, middle of the season, but then they just slap their heads and say, what are we doing? And get better all of a sudden.
Then give me your 5, 6, 7, and 8 team.
Oh, you mean 6, 7, and 8 team? Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, can't you count? Maybe I should trust him.
Whatever. Give me your 5, 6, 7, and 8 then.
Well, to be fair, my 6 and 7, obviously, like I said, I did have them tie, and that's the Celtics and Raptors. I wasn't sure which order to put them in. I know they are both 6 and 7 in the NBA standings. But for me, after a lot of consideration, I did end up keeping it that way with Celtics first, number 6, and Raptors number 7. Mainly just being because the Celtics have the better home streak, and they don't have as bad of a losing away streak compared to the Raptors.
Yeah, and your number 8?
My number 8, I feel like this may surprise you. I actually put the Charlotte Hornets.
No, actually, we're the only thing we're different. We're greens. So just so everybody knows, number 5 for me was Boston. Okay. Number 6 was Toronto. Number 7 was Miami. And then number 8 was Charlotte.
Okay, so we only have those mixed up. And I obviously you've already kind of explained your reasoning as to why you probably put Miami at number 7.
And I believe that people need to give more credit to Charlotte. I mean, They're seven. They're right now. They're above 500 right now, barely. Okay, so no, they're 8-7 at home, 9-10. They're being led by rookies, literally. And then no, they're 5-1 within the division, and then 9-9 within the conference. So that's not bad. I mean, considering everything that they're going through right now, considering that they're mostly led by rookies and really smaller players, if you would say, that's not bad at all. That is not bad at all. I mean, points per game, they're 112.1 points per game. And then, no, they're only allowing 113.5 points per game, which is it's not a bad difference. They just need, if they square up their defense a little more, you can make the argument that they're doing better. And then, no, the Ball kid is doing not bad. You know, he's the youngest of the three Ball brothers. He's playing great. That was a great pickup in the draft. Everybody knew Charlotte was going to take him. I had my reservations considering that their dad is, well, a pain in the ass, okay? But nothing against the kids. The kids have great talent, and no one can deny that. I just figured that, hey, he's going to Charlotte. No, he's going to where Michael Jordan has control. You know, he really can't question Michael Jordan. I mean, Michael Jordan says jump, you say how high. No, I mean, he's the basketball GOAT. Are done. You don't argue that. So with all that put together, Charlotte's really giving. I would give Charlotte going into the playoffs as maybe the seventh round. I mean, sorry, 7th pick. Maybe even 6.
Yeah.
You know, if they can square up that defense. So yeah.
Okay. Well, who do you have as your 9 and 10 to finish off the Eastern Conference?
Well, this was very hard for me. You have Indiana, Chicago, Atlanta, Washington, Cleveland, Orlando, and Detroit. Mind you, Cleveland, Orlando, and Detroit, you're out. You're not even close to making me think about you. Washington, it was almost there, but I didn't like them too much. Chicago, I did have them, and then I watched them play, and they dropped off. Then you have Indianapolis and Atlanta. I'm sorry, but my number 9, I went with Atlanta, and then number 10, Indianapolis. Atlanta has a worse record than Indianapolis. I understand that, people. Don't go rah me. But I think Atlanta has a better players and better matchups coming together. Now, are they gonna make the playoffs this year? God, no. They're not even close. But they're getting there. They're figuring out the formula to make it to the playoffs. And that's what you need. Same thing with Indianapolis. We've seen Indianapolis make the playoffs year in, year out, and they could never make it past the first round, second round, because they could not get it together. I think Indianapolis is rebuilding, figuring themselves out, figuring what they need to do. And with that, they're going to make it. Not this year, maybe not next year, but 2 to 3 years down the road, I can see them making the playoffs.
Okay, well, we're almost similar. I just had reverse, and that's mostly just being on the part of the streak. Like I said, I go with the numbers. Technically, by numbers, you'd say that the Pacers are the better team. When you watch them, obviously, you can't say that Atlanta is the better team, but I just went by the numbers. But definitely, it was just a tie. I actually originally had it as the Chicago Bulls and then the Pacers. Atlanta I had as my number 11, but like you said, I did see how the Bulls were playing, and I'm just like,
yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't understand what is going on with the Bulls. They're playing. They were playing so well at the beginning of the season, and then they just, I don't know. Maybe just because I'm watching them during a 2-game losing streak or something above that. I don't know. You would have to tell me, but it's one of those where this is not the team we were seeing at the beginning of the season. This is not the team that play defense, and they need to square that up. They can still, in theory, they're 7 games behind the 8th spot. I'm sorry, the first spot, which is not bad. It's really not bad at all.
Exactly.
So if they can square up the defense and, square up that offense as well, they could sneak in. I mean, honestly, Indianapolis, Indiana, the Pacers, Chicago, and the Hawks, all three can sneak into the in the 8th and 7th spot if Toronto and Charlotte don't get their stuff together.
That is very true. It's so close amongst those last 5. But that go ahead and wraps up the Eastern Conference. Now we're getting over to the more competitive. I'm sorry to any Eastern Conference fans that I am currently offending, but we are getting to the toughest, the most ruthless, the most competitive conference of the two, where we have our current favorite team, maybe not our number 1 team, but our favorite team overall. My boy Timmy, that's where he went. Obviously, my brother's supporting someone who we shall not name anymore, but still. And that is the Western Conference. And should I even ask who either of us has as our number 1? Should I even ask this question?
If you do not have the Utah Jazz as your number 1, slap yourself in the face and get out of my sight. Because 27-8, 71 percentage, 15-2 at home, 12-6 away, 3-1 within the division, 12-5 in the conference, 116 points per game, 107.1 points allowed. And I mean, what?
Hey, and let's just add in a little bit of this, okay? You got Rudy Gobert. I never know how to say his last name. I always say Gobert. Rudy Gobert, you have him 13.2 in rebounds per game, currently 3rd in the league. He's also leading 2nd in the league for blocks per game with 2.8. He's also leading in field goal percentage with 64.9. He's 3rd in the league right now. I mean, he's just a beast.
Yeah, and then when Mike Conley's finally back after missing 6 games, and he came back and he scored 16 points and to 20 in 25 minutes, and that's really good after missing so much. Then of course they had, mind you, they lost to the Clippers, but that's okay because in that loss, that's when Mike Conley scored 16 points in 25 minutes. And then Donovan Mitchell is playing an MVP caliber season, which we've been waiting for him to play like this. Not that he wasn't playing bad before, but he was still playing great. And even despite the loss to the Clippers, they still, at that time, they won 20 of 22, keeping them in first place in the West, which that's huge. I mean, they're playing lights out football. Lights out.
Indeed. It's no surprise that Utah Jazz is both of our number 1s. It should be everyone's number 1. It's like my brother said, if you do not have them as your number 1, you should be ashamed of yourself for even calling yourself an NBA fan. Okay? No matter whose team you support. But Hersa, who do you have as your number 2 and number 3?
So this was a hard one for me because, so mind you, the only 2 teams that deserve the number 2 and the number 3 spot were either the Lakers or the Clippers. That is it. Okay? Everybody else is down below. I could not, there's no justification of any of the other teams to be in the number 2 and number 3 spot. So mind you, the Lakers are 24-11. The Clippers are 24-12. All right? Similar records. Not really any difference. No, they're both pretty good on the road, 13-4 and 12-6 respectively. And then of course their home games, the Lakers are a little bit worse, 11-7, but not bad, and the Clippers are 12-6. Okay, I can manage that. I can deal with that. Okay, all right. Then you start getting into the whole other aspect of it. How good are they playing? So when I looking back at that, I had to make the argument, who's better? Unfortunately, I went with the Clippers as my number 2 team. The Clippers are pulling up impressive victories over the Heat without, mind you, and that's without Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. No. Then they went back and they played against the Jazz and the Nets. Again, they played great. No, mind you, they still lost. No, with that when the Nets didn't have Kevin Durant, no, in Brooklyn, but that's still really good game. They are giving hard teams without their star players a huge battle. Now, do they need to continue that? Yes, they need to continue and figure out how to make potentially game time lineups so that they don't wipe out any in case they have any losses, or Kawhi Leonard gets sick, or Paul George gets sick, or something. So they still need to work on that. On top of that, though, once they fix that, there's no way that they're not going to do it. Now, I know what everyone's going to say. Well, the Lakers have LeBron James. Trust me, we've seen LeBron James. The Spurs beat him 3 times in the final. He only beat us 1 time, okay? We slapped him around when he was in Cleveland. We slapped him around when he was with the Heat.
And let's just be real here. That game was not theirs, okay? It was all conspiracy with the refs, okay? They were against the Spurs from the beginning, and then LeBron James had to complain about his air conditioning.
But mind you, my biggest thing with the Lakers was simply that now that they don't have Anthony Davis because he's hurt, they're kind of falling apart. I mean, think about it. They didn't have Anthony Davis before, okay? LeBron James went to the Lakers, okay? Did they make the finals? No, they didn't. They were playing horrible. They weren't playing well. What happens? They go out. They get Anthony Davis. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, now they're in the playoffs and they win a championship. Great, congratulations. We all saw that coming. Now bring back to this year. Anthony Davis is playing. Everybody, Lakers are going to the playoffs. Lakers are going to the playoffs. They're gonna win another one. And then what happens? Anthony Davis gets hurt, and it's like, what are we doing? Kyle Kuzma has although he stepped up, averaging 5.3 points and 5.7 rebounds in the games, that has done nothing for them. They're 39% from the 3-point. I mean, did they just forget how to shoot? 39%, that's horrible. No, it's like with Davis out, what? Do they not have leadership? Did LeBron forget how to be LeBron James? So it's like, if any other teams could make an argument to be better than the Lakers, I would have put other teams above the Lakers. But unfortunately, there was no argument.
Yeah. I will say I was going to also slap you if you put the Lakers above the Clippers. I have the Clippers number 2 and number.
It was this close. It was this close.
Oh yeah. Oh no, for sure it was. My mindset was not only including what everything you just said. It was also just going with the fact that the Clippers have the better home streak. And both of them being the number 2 and number 3, and especially being the Lakers are only 1 game behind and could come back and be number 2. I feel like having a winning home streak, or they both have winning home streaks, but the one having the better home streak in the Clippers is probably better because obviously they'll be playing at home, and you want to have that better win streak because that means a higher chance of moving on and probably facing Utah or maybe someone else like the Spurs or Blazers or something. That's just how it
Plus, if they're playing the best of 7, they play 2 at home, 2 away. You always want to take the first 2 at home. That way you have a little room, a wiggle room to lose, when you go away. So I understand that. But yeah. Who do you have for your number 4 and your number 5? You know what? And add in your number 6 too, just for the fun of it.
Oh well, my 4, 5, and 6, my golden butter, all the problems that are going on in my head to try to figure out who to put my 4, 5, and 6. Because I have to think about the Suns, I have to think about the Blazers, I have to think about our team, the Spurs. I also thought about the Nuggets. They're currently hanging on that edge right now, and I was kind of like debating who should be my 4, 5, and 6. So I actually did keep the Phoenix Suns as my number 4. I know there's definitely an argument that can be put for maybe the Blazers or the Spurs even to be number 4, more the Blazers than the Spurs. But I just feel like the Phoenix Suns were still a little bit better than the rest of the teams, at least not counting the Clippers, Lakers, and Jazz. So I kept them there. My 5 and 6 though, it was a little tough because Blazers right now are ranked number 5 and Spurs are number 6. But it's just the thing that I'm seeing is that the Spurs have currently been showing some good battles. Like you literally just brought up how they almost came back. They went to overtime against the Nets. They did end up losing, but they're battling. They were just a little bit off to winning that. They would be in the currently number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. That's amazing. It definitely would have helped them a lot. They're only trailing Blazers by 2 wins, 1 loss. They're actually only trailing by 2 wins because they actually have a better losing streak because they have 1 less loss. So with that being said, and maybe it's just because of a little bit of bias, I actually went ahead and put the Spurs at number 5. I just think we're a team that can we've definitely shown in the past that we can adapt as the season gets by. I think there's been a lot of seasons in the past where we were kind of in the end part of the conference, like number 6, number 7, during the beginning, middle of the season. And then a lot of times at the end of the season, we just come back, we go on some insane winning streak and usually end up coming back to be like in the 5 spots. Usually are kind of like resting place a lot of times, unless we're back when we had the big 3, we were always being number 3, number 2, number 1. We were the top of the crop, and no one can tell us anything different. We were the best. I put the Spurs at number 5, also being because I feel like last year we sadly ended our playoff streak, our amazing playoff streak that no one probably, maybe some people don't even know about it, but they don't realize that we have been to the playoffs since 1997, correct?
1999.
1999. Sorry, I thought we were that great. I mean, we still are, but obviously we finished that streak sadly last year, and I feel like, although it's not being said, I feel like our players, and even Popovich himself, are having that little revenge, like we want to get that back. So I put the Spurs as my number 5, and for my number 6, I actually had a tough time because, like I said, Nuggets, they're kind of in the shadow right there. They're like you don't see them, but they're just hovering over right now. I kept the Blazers as my number 6, but definitely was hard between them and the Nuggets, just because the Nuggets are just looming over currently. If you had the Nuggets placed higher, I can definitely see the argument, and you can explain why, but that's just how I thought. So yeah, number 4 is Phoenix Suns, number 5 Spurs, number 6 is the Blazers.
So we have the same idea on mine. Mine number 4 will be the Suns. Number 5, the Blazers. Number 6, the Spurs. Now, mind you, the reason why I'm putting number 4 with the Suns is, Devin Booker has dropped a season-high 43 points against Minnesota, while Chris Paul is averaging 11.8 points and 12.3 assists during that week. They're continuing to play tough. They're playing well. They're not the Suns that we're used to. They're been playing very hot right now. So I believe that they are probably the dark horse of the playoffs right now, and that's exactly what we want and what we love to see. Now, just like you, I did have my reservations when it came to between the Spurs and the Trailblazers, because it could have gone either way, and that's huge. Mind you, the Trailblazers are overachievers. They're running out of gas, but not really. They're playing tough games. They play tough against the Suns, the Nuggets, and the Lakers. Damian can't even say his name. Damian Lillard had his best victory with 28 points and 9 assists per game during that stretch, but they seem to be missing something. Okay, I can't pinpoint it, and as much as I watch film and everything, I don't see what they're missing. And that is what worries me. That piece that they're missing that I can't pinpoint is the piece that they're going to need in the playoffs. And if they don't get that piece together, they're not going to win in the playoffs. They can still make it, don't get me wrong, but they're not going to be able to win the best out of 7. And then same thing with the Spurs. Mind you, the Spurs had a lot of team games canceled due to COVID protocols. Then obviously a lot of games that were supposed to be here at home got canceled as well due to the weather. And then of course now they're starting their rodeo roundup, where they just play everything at home. Normally we have the rodeo here in San Antonio. And even with them, they're still playing great though. Then they're held the Pelicans behind DeJounte Murray with an average of 22.5 points and 7.5 rebounds, adding 6.5 assists in per game on 40%, and they're 40% from the 3 shooting. That for me, that was a trick why they kind of fell to that last spot, because 40%, like I said, the Nets are 39%, and they're number 2 in the East. I couldn't justify putting the Spurs any higher than that as well. You need to have the 3-pointers. Again, I'll take you back to when we played the Heat. Ray Allen, what'd he do? He went, shot a 3-pointer, tied the game, and they ended up winning. Let's never forget that in Miami. So a 3-pointer can make a difference between a tie, a loss, or a win. So again, I don't like that. Now, the win over New Orleans, putting up 32 points and 11 assists from DeMar DeRozan was really good. We need him to get back on track and start playing like we know he can play. I believe that the Spurs, just like the Trailblazers, are missing those few little pieces. But once those pieces get together, there is no reason why they're not going to be able to make a good run. But I agree with you on that too. Us losing that streak really solidified that the big 3 are gone. They're all retired, gone, doing their own thing, which again, sad, pains and everything. Again, even that, we still need to remember they still have a very good team, a very young team at that. And of course, DeMar DeRozan is a great player and he needs to be treated as such. It's just I'm thinking to get together and really, really start meshing better and better.
And I think what people also have to remember, and people seem to be forgetting, because they just, for one reason or another, maybe it's because how we lost last season, and our streak ended, but I think people are forgetting we have one of the greatest coaches to ever coach this sport. Okay, Greg Popovich. No matter, yes, in the last few years after Timmy left, and then you had Giovanni and you had Tony Parker leave as well. Ginobili, Tony Parker, the big 3, all of them. You had them leave, and yeah, you definitely saw the decrease in the Spurs, and definitely, obviously, we ended up seeing them not end their.
And he has a great coaching staff as well. I mean, Beckham is one of the best female coaches to coach in the NBA. She's going to be one of the next head coaches for sure. I don't care what team, you need to be looking at her to coach you. She's won plenty of summer league championships. She did great when she took over for Popovich. And I mean, Popovich didn't even question when he got kicked out. He said, "No, you're taking over the reins." Like, duh. And even in his news conference, he said, "No. Why wouldn't I choose her to take over? Like, are you dumb? Like, she was the best option."
She's definitely, if no other team tries to offer something to her to be a head coach, we can all agree that she'll probably be the successor to Greg Popovich, and I'll be so happy when it happens, because it will be the first female head coach officially of a professional NBA team, and it's just crazy. And I really hope that happens, but definitely. And
she won a championship with the Silver Stars too, so she's won championships. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah, but like I was saying in the beginning, we have Greg Popovich. Okay, yeah, he's definitely in his later years. Definitely can kind of see him retiring in the next couple of years. But he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. And I have to say is that while our team has lost a bit, I can always say that Greg Popovich, what I like about him is that he always tries to create a strong bench aside from our starting players. No one can argue against this. The Spurs have always had one of the best benches in the entire league, not just counting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, they've always had it, but yeah, that's why I put them. But first, so who do you have as your 7 and 8?
I'll give you one better. I'll give you my 7, 8, 9, and 10 because there's no arguing this. I mean, come on. My number 7, you got the Denver Nuggets. Number 8, you got the Golden State Warriors. Number 9, the Dallas Mavericks. And number 10, Memphis Grizzlies. And the only reason the Memphis Grizzlies even skimmed to the number 10 pad is because 10 part is because the Pelicans are just playing horrid. And I did not like what I saw on TV the other day when they played. I think they could have played a lot better, and they made some very easy shots. So I had to put the Grizzlies on top. But I'll be honest, I can easily interchange them. Same thing with the Denver's playing great. If San Antonio doesn't get their stuff together, Denver will take over that 6th spot and make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what I said when I was deciding the number 5 and 6. I did say Denver was looming over because they are, but even over the Blazers too. They're looming over the Blazers and the Spurs, just saying, hey, don't forget about us because once you mess up, we'll step up.
Same thing with Golden State. Golden State is just right there too. The only team, I mean, you can put Dallas, Golden State, and Denver anywhere between number 9 and number 5, and they would still make a great matchup against them. They're all playing great. It's just now that it's the not the playoffs, the Star break, the All-Star break, they're playing great, and that's what we want to see. And maybe this break will really solidify who's gonna be the one to take that last spot. I mean, Dallas is playing great. Donovic is a 22-year-old savant in basketball. I mean, that boy, if you ever get a chance, take a chance. Go watch him play. He's a monster. I wish the Spurs would have gone and gotten him. He's so good. Then you got Golden State trying to figure out, the Basket brothers over there, but they are getting it. Not saying that they're not. They're figuring it out and trying to make it work. And I believe that they can. I mean, they're 19 and 6 for a reason. And then of course you got Denver, who I personally haven't seen play yet, but they're still 13 and 9. I mean, 19 and 15. I'm sorry. 13 and 9 within the conference. I mean, they're 9 and 7 at home. And then let's not forget 10 and 8 on the road. Sorry. Come on. And in overtime games, they're 2 and 2. Mind you, this much more, we can see 10 and 6 on home, 11 and 7 on the road, 3 and 1 overtime games. I mean, come on. Denver is right there. Golden State is right there. I don't even know. I don't understand how I was able to even put them all in this order without arguing or almost driving myself crazy.
Oh yeah, definitely. I had the same order as you, surprisingly. I guess we don't really differ too much in the Western Conference compared to the Eastern. That's just because we know the Western Conference better. But definitely, I will say that honestly, everywhere from number 5 to number 10 can just flip flop in a second. All of those teams have each team from the Blazers to the Mavericks and the Grizzlies and all. You can definitely just make the argument that one can be at 5, one can be at 10, one can be everywhere. I think the top 4 are the only ones that are pretty solid. I think obviously Clippers, Lakers, we just said you can flip flop them. We did. But definitely, it's definitely the last 5 teams in the top 10 for the Western Conference. It's such a close race, and I honestly don't know which team is going to make it, or which teams, better said, are going to make it at the end of the season, because it can go either way. I think it really is just going to be dependent on, okay, which team can figure out what's going wrong, because all of them got something going wrong or something missing.
Yes.
As you said, they all got something, and it's really just which teams can figure it out faster and fix it, or at least maybe not fix it completely, because that's not always possible, because some of them, maybe they just need new players and they can't get that, but at least try to figure out a solution that can at least temporarily fix it until you can truly fix it maybe during the offseason.
No, I completely agree. Yes, with this All-Star break that they're having right now, I believe that once we're coming back from that, the 5 through 10 in the Western Conference side are going to be it's going to be a matchup. Okay, teams are gonna figure what they need out. This is a good break. It's right in the middle of the season, it's always been. It's a perfect time to relax, catch up on everything, and then continue, and then go on and fix the issues. I believe every team that is going on right now, again from 5 to 10, is this close to making the run to the playoffs. Now, will they catch up to the Suns, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Jazz? No. I believe the top 4 teams in the Western are set the way they are, and that's where they're going to stay. No other team is any closer. But that rest of the little spot right there, they're this close, and it's going to be an interesting matchup. Again, it's not like in the Eastern where we can make an argument for all of them, but we already know how they're going to end up anyways. Potentially, it could be this much difference in maybe the last 2 spots, but that's about it. In reality, the Western is going to end up going all over the place. I personally believe that Blazers are not going to make the 5th spot by the end of the season. I believe the Mavericks are going to be in that spot with the Spurs taking over the 6th. I'm sorry. The Spurs taking over the 6th and the Mavericks taking over the 5th spot. They figured out how Luka is. He's kind of a Nowitzki kind of guy. So now that they figured that out, I believe they're gonna get him. They're gonna get him the people, and they're going to do a very good job.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I can't really say much because I'm always gonna cheer on my Spurs. So I'm gonna say the Spurs will win it all, but that may not be the case. Timmy, I miss you.
Yeah, but that was all we have for you guys today. As always, follow RYM Network on all social media. Follow the Sporty Sibling Podcast. Let us know what you think of our rankings. Also, let us know your rankings down below. As always, we're here to listen to you guys. And then let us know who you think is going to win it all. I mean, we have our picks, but we'll make them later. We'll have a whole podcast about it. Don't worry, guys. We'll have this. But Eunice, that's all I have for you guys today. What do you got?
Make sure to catch us on the RIM Facebook page, 8 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. We always go catch Trash Panda on our TikTok and Instagram. He likes to talk about things. Little rascal he is. Kind of want to throw him back in the
And he has a lot to talk about this week, believe me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, JJ, what? Just a spoiler, just a little tease. But yeah, thank you for watching. Let us know if we got any of your teams correct. If we completely disregard your favorite team, then we're sorry. Maybe it's just because your team sucks and we have to rethink about which team you support. Just kidding though. Hopefully all fun in sports, go ahead and do that. But with that being said, that is all for today. We shall catch you guys on the next podcast. Bye.